Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Tim Calise, a serial entrepreneur, husband, father, and avid Formula One fan. He is also a business strategist, investor, and advisor to over 15 privately held businesses with annual revenues from 250,000 to 10 million plus. Spending the last 10 years as a founder, consultant, and director of business and software development, Tim collaborates with multiple eight-figure CEOs and navigating companies and teams through challenging business issues. Centered around a core value proposition, Tim helps companies avoid making 6 to 8 figure mistakes, solving unpleasant problems with exciting solutions. It's going to be an excellent discussion today. Tim, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. I'm very, very much looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, so in that introduction, I really should count. There were too many commas in there, right?
Fair enough.
Out of all those accomplishments that you have done, tell us a little bit about who you are and what makes you so amazing.
I really appreciate the intro, Jeff. What my name's Tim Calise. I started my career, and I've kind of ebbed and flowed through a number of different industries. I started in the investment business, so I raised over $300 million for a long short equity hedge fund before the age of 25. Then spent about 10 years in technology and services. And then most recently, I spent a number of years at Gym Launch as the director, VP of business development there. And there we built a business consultancy for fitness facilities around the world. We also had a supplement line and a software product that we built. And so I've taken kind of all of that experience, including founding a number of companies of my own, and now kind of packaging all the best of what I've learned through the last 20 years and helping companies on the lower end, either who are just getting started or who have stalled or feel like something's missing, to help them grow in their own journey. So, kind of taking all this experience and kind of bringing it to the next crop of business owners and entrepreneurs.
I love that because basically what you're doing is that you're coming in and you're helping reform companies to, implement the best practices, what works, what to get rid of, things like that. What would you say are some of the challenges when you come into a new company fresh? They bring you in, you take a look around. I mean, we've all seen shows like Shark Tank and The Profit with Marcus Lemonis, where he just shakes his damn head and is like, "Oh my God, I got to fix this." Right? I would assume it's very similar in your case. How do you help? How do you help companies go in? Like, what would you say is the biggest problem that you see, and what you're able to help them alleviate?
The thing that I see the most, and as you alluded to in the intro, I actually look at what can we remove, what can we stop doing, and so kind of mistakes come in two forms. There are the ones that we make knowingly, and there are the ones that we make unknowingly. So those of omission and those of commission. I believe that was Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger said something along those lines in an interview. So I come in and I'm looking at how can we build a solid base on which we can build. And that typically revolves around actually stopping doing a lot of the things that are kind of acting as brakes to progress, providing clarity, because especially in a team, if all the rowers aren't moving in the same direction, it's going to be really hard to grow. So I think one of the misconceptions early on is you have to do more and you have to be doing more. And in most cases, we actually have to pull back, kind of retreat to a position of strength, and then build with clarity and continuity. And so that's usually the first thing we do, is just to try to kind of build that base.
What's interesting is that I see a lot of business consultants that basically like some of the first things that they ask people to do is to simplify, and that's basically what you're saying here, right?
Yep.
Is you go in, it's like if you're trying to support 10 prime products within your business or prime services, you're probably not going to be great at all 10. And when you do something like that, you're really shooting yourself in the foot and inhibiting growth, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how do you get people? Russell Brunson, I think, says this the best. I'm not sure if he originated or not, but it's kill your babies, right? You
Hmm.
need to go in and kill, whatever, even if you have a strong attachment to it, you need to kill the thing that you are not exceptional at,
Yeah.
right? And how do you help people understand that, hey, you know something? This baby needs to go. This thing needs to
Yeah.
get out.
Yeah, and I think Jeff, you pointed out something really interesting, and I kind of see this in two ways. So the first is a number of business owners and entrepreneurs start with a kind of what they believe to be kind of the singular product that they want to bring to market. But in reality, what you're doing every time we bring something to market, we're actually solving a problem for the buyer. And so most of the companies I work with are in the services industry. And so a good example of that would be I have a client who owns a yoga studio. And she kept saying, there's a bunch of different competitors in the market. It's tough to kind of stand out, and I can't increase my prices. And so I really am having a tough go of it. And I said, the thing that we have to kind of kill in this scenario is your perception or positioning in the market. And through kind of a process that I've built, we got to the thing that she was actually doing was creating a space and an environment for women who are under between 35 and 50 who want to lead a life of intention. So we took a business that was kind of generalist and somewhat of a commodity in the market, and we got very, very specific about who we were talking to and the value proposition. So that's the first. And the second that I see, and this is also a misconception, is if you are providing a service, you don't have to be the one to actually produce each piece of the product. So you can be exceptional in one piece and then go find partners. We'll look for joint ventures or partnerships in other areas. But the sum of the parts is that we're solving a problem in its totality. Even if we have to, kind of stop doing some things in house, we can typically go find a partner or another source to be able to provide that. And it provides operational breathing room, if you will, but it also that clarity of focus.
I love that example that you give because like if you're going to go and create a commodity, right? So a commodity in this case is a yoga studio. There's 10 of them in the suburb that I live in, right? And if you're just going to put out your shingle and say, I am yet another yoga studio, then you're right. You're not doing anything unique, and you are swimming in such a red ocean that, your initial impression is to just slash prices at any cost to get people in. But slashing prices doesn't do anybody any good. You have to reduce the amount of services in order to make your business function. You're probably going to have to sacrifice quality in order to do that. And you're right. When you pivot the whole value prop of what it is that you're doing, then people can actually latch onto it, right? They can latch on. And once you're providing something unique, you can charge whatever you want. You can charge double, triple what the guy down the street is doing because you are now not competing with them, right? Even though it says yoga studio on your store and yoga studio on the other, you are not competing with them anymore because you have now a unique product, right? So
Exactly.
so let's talk a little bit about coming up with that. I'm sure you've seen, hundreds of examples, where you get, and especially in the gym space. My daughter, who's 17, she recently came over to me and said, Dad, I want to start going to the gym. Right? I'm like,
Hmm.
well, wait a second. There's a gym right here in the complex that we live in. Why don't you go over there? No, 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 no. They don't have the stuff that I need. I need to go to this gym.
Hmm.
So, I followed, Gym Launch. I've looked at a few of their funnels and how they do it. And, so I was remotely familiar with more or less the pattern of, what you guys do with them. Right. And then I walk in there because, I got to sign all the papers and do all that. And I watched very carefully what they were doing and how they were doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I was actually very impressed with it's not just this heavy sales pitch to get you to sign on the dotted line into a 2-year contract, which incidentally is the last time I got involved with the gym, maybe like
Hmm.
15 years ago, and it was a really crappy experience. Now they get you in, with it's a much simpler sign up process. It's a much simpler, It's a much simpler product that you're getting into. They're not holding you down to a contract, and it makes a lot more sense, for the members who are coming in there.
Yep.
How when you were working with Gym Launch, for example, what kind of resistance did you get when you would go into a gym and tell people like, "Hey guys, we know this part doesn't work. You need to get rid of it." And then they get pushback like, "No, no, this is what we do. How can you make me take away, like the 2-year contract? How else are we supposed to hold them in?" Like
Yeah.
how do you help them understand that, "No, guys, really, you're in the wrong playing field here. You need to be over on this side, and here's why."
Yeah, yeah. So specifically in the gym space, gyms clearly there are lots of options out in just about every community and marketplace in the country. So what we did at Gym Launch was to look at the gym business model from the gym owner's perspective, and to say what are the kind of the foundational pieces which are not working. And there's really kind of, if you look at the five core functions of the business, so there's lead generation, lead nurturing, conversion, so the sales process, fulfillment, and then upsell and retention. So if you look at those, we actually helped people in all five of those. And we pioneered and made common the 6 week challenge, and that served a number of functions. But the reason why we grew very quickly, and for those that aren't familiar with the story, the company grew from about $400,000 in revenue in 2017 to over 50 million in revenue just a few short years later. And that growth came from kind of a mutually beneficial dynamic that was created. The 6 week challenge was priced on average somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600. And the reason why that was important is because for the gym owner, it allowed for more efficient lead generation. It improved the short term cash flow of the business, and therefore allowed the gym owner to reinvest in that relationship to provide a better level of service. For the member, although the price was higher than typical, what it did is it actually, for the first time, kind of in mass market, it hit the three key areas that someone actually needs to go through a transformation. So it was very much success based rather than action based. So there was a movement component, there was a nutrition component, and there was an accountability component. And so that $600 ticket was high, but it was high because it worked, and the quality of the experience was very good, and the level of success was astronomical. And so we aligned all those pieces, and we were able to get a phenomenal outcome for all that were involved.
So what you just described is a winning framework, right?
Yeah.
It's a framework that you guys hit on and tested, and then realized that, hey, this thing works, right?
Yes.
And then once you're able to convince people that, hey, I have a framework. This is what it's going to do for you. It's relatively easy, but you need to put in the work. What
Mhm.
happened after that? What happens after, they pay the $600, they go through the 6-week challenge, and they start to realize greater profits? What's the next step then?
Yeah, so you can think of it almost like layers of a cake. So the first step is kind of the foundational layer, which was to create a solid cash flow business, so that there can be reinvestment in, kind of the longevity or the continuity of the product. And we know that for most people, and I think this is true in a lot of industries, transformations don't happen in 6 weeks. It's a marathon, not a sprint, to use the old analogy. But to show progress early on was a validation of what was possible. And so we could break the beliefs of, this time I'm going to fail again. It was like, no, this time you're actually going to be successful. And now you have a support system to help you long term, to actually deliver upon whatever the full goal was. So, folks didn't sign up for 6 weeks. They signed up for the life change that would happen over time. And we had every bit of that kind of mapped out and optimized, because at that time we worked with thousands of gyms, so we had a lot of experience and data to show what actions, and what order, and what level of delivery was needed in each type of facility, to continue to optimize for that outcome.
What kind of overlap do you see then by using this framework because it seems that you're excelling in these neighborhood service-based businesses that that percolate around where most people live here in the United States, right? So we already talked about two. We talked about gyms and yoga studios. What
Yep.
other types of businesses can this framework be applied to, uh, it, or maybe with a few tweaks here and there,
Yeah.
but they're then able to be like, oh, okay, that's how it works, and this is how I can make it work for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot kind of in between these two. So we'll put kind of gyms on one side. I'll give you a simple example. We actually had a client that was a mattress store, somewhat of a commodity product, and what most people perceive, and they're right, as a kind of a single purchase. Maybe once every 5 to 10 years. But if you think of what that experience is and the service opportunity is, people don't come to buy a mattress. They come because they want to have better sleep. So if you zoom out and say, my role in this is not just to be a kind of a purveyor of the mattress, my job here is to deliver upon the goal of better sleep, which makes you think, well, what other things are involved? Do you need a new pillow? Do you need maybe there's some a spray or something that you can use on a nightly basis, which helps from an olfactory perspective, give you better sleep. Are there consumables that you need over time? Things like that. Are there opportunities to deliver upon kind of a more full suite of service in service to a specific problem that you can solve? So I think kind of anywhere in between. We've looked at. I've had clients in the gym space, in dental, in chiropractic, again, all the way to mattress stores, and this framework that we're talking about. I summarize it as your message is your margin, and there's four key components to it, and they all revolve around how you are kind of speaking to the marketplace. So number one is your positioning. Number two is your product. Number three is the packaging. And number four is your pricing. And so when I say your message is your margin, how you define these four things in your offering and how you convey that to the marketplace will determine whether you are successful on delivering upon the goal. And if you can increase the likelihood of success and hopefully decrease the time that it takes, you can have a differentiated product, which therefore you can probably charge more for. So, every client that I work with comes in looking for, how can I accelerate my growth? And so our goals are to at least double their revenue and quadruple their cash flow in 24 months or less. And so we do that by kind of going through this four-step process. And I think anyone can apply those principles in just about in every industry, even ones that don't have any kind of recurring revenue piece to it. If you don't have a subscription or a membership, take a dentist as a great example. That would look like a pure service industry. Well, I actually talked to my dentist. Let's just say there's 1,000 patients. Of the 1,000, 200 of them actually would benefit from specialty toothpaste. Well, they're going to buy that toothpaste somewhere. They might as well buy it from you. So my dentist is now implementing, and I've recommended him implement a recurring monthly subscription for toothpaste. Take 200 people, and I asked what the average price was. $17 is the average retail price of toothpaste. Times 12, it's actually really, really meaningful money, and it kind of lays out the opportunity in front of you, even if it might not be the typical use case.
I love that you brought up that example of recurring revenue. One of the things that I figured out early on when I was building up my digital marketing business was the beauty in not having to ask for money every month from somebody, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I started out with website hosting, and with
Hmm.
website hosting, that is very much a commodity business, right? It's your landlord, four walls, and plumbing, for your website.
Yeah.
But what happened was I didn't want to be another GoDaddy or Bluehost to, selling this stuff for $5 a month. I wouldn't be able to take care of the infrastructure that I was doing. So I started charging 50, 75, $100 even, to host one website. But I would bundle in like, okay, now we're going to do all your backups. Now we're going to do all your, all your support. Like you're really just paying one price, and it's all built in. So what was interesting there was that recurring revenue actually created a foundation for everything that I was building. When you have a bad month, it was the recurring revenue that really kept the lights on, as opposed to, full on financial disaster. And I think that's, sort of what we're talking about over here, is that you would think to yourself that a dentist, would just be content with doing cleanings and operations and things like that. And if you get them to just sort of step back a little bit, like, listen, you can have your front desk staff promoting, like these recurring subscriptions on toothpaste, which is probably mundane for them, right?
Hmm.
And you're right, it turns into meaningful money in the end. So I really like that example. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No,
Can
you're
you
welcome.
can you please tell everyone where they can find you online and how they can reach out to you directly if they want to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at timcalise.com. That's TIMCALISE.com. And all these concepts that I covered, I know it can be, we have to kind of establish where we are today until, and then we can make an improvement. And so for the audience today, I actually put together a single framework, a worksheet. I call it the Build a Better Business Auditor. And so you can go to timcalise.com/audit, and no cost, just for the audience, to be able to download that. There's a short video to walk you through it. And that's a good place to kind of lay everything out in one 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And then you can start to tweak it, and then get that alignment with your team to go and execute. So, it's a great way to kind of bring everything out of your head and onto paper.
I love it. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun today. I love nerding out on this stuff, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Likewise, Jeff. Thank you so much.